Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Epic Meta Podcast. We're your hosts, Thang and George. George, how's it going?
Good.
Awesome. Uh, so on this episode, we're covering the Expanse, the season one final episodes, which I think you cover episodes 7, 8, 9, and 10. Correct?
That's right.
Um,
Yes.
is that what you consume?
Hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, just as a whole season, or just as the show so far, how do you where do you stand? How do you feel?
It's good. It's interesting. Um, I like I like how some certain things happened during this chunk of episodes that uh, give me a cool feeling.
Yeah.
Essentially, like the show had built itself up enough to me that when a certain event happened, where like different characters came together, and that was satisfying. And it was
Mm.
satisfying because I had been invested in the characters. So.
Right. Yeah, all the pieces come together, so to speak. And yeah, I don't know how I'm curious how it compares to other TV shows that you might be watching right now or very recently, because I think other than Star Wars doing this show called Mandalorian or Disney.
Mhm.
And other than that show, most of the time, I would say within the last, few years, most of the shows I consume, uh, you're familiar with the term binge watching, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it seems to me this is pretty much on par with that style of consumption, because what it is basically a puzzle, and you don't see all the pieces until basically the last few episodes, to me. And I don't remember a show where I don't binge watch within the last few years. Maybe shows like The Mandalorian right now, which is coming out one episode per week. But right now, I'm actually just waiting for them to be all available, and then I could just watch it all at the same time. So I'm curious if that affects how good the show is versus like your style of consumption or the way you consume the show matters in regards to the like the story, the characters, how good a show might be. But now that I'm the last few episodes, like last night, I was kind of like rewatching some of it. I did skip around because I watch it like way too many times, but the action pick up, like the pacing pick up to me, and all the pieces come together, and it feels very satisfying. So I'm biased because I like it, but it felt like you would have maybe liked it more or enjoy it more if you were binge watching it. Do you remember binge watching anything within the last few years?
Uh, yeah. Well, I'm not sure how you define binge watching. I can't sit and watch 5 episodes straight, like in the same
Yeah.
time period.
That's when binge watching. Like if this show came out, let's say like season 5 is coming out very soon. I think like within the next few weeks.
Okay.
I most likely will consume it either in one or two sittings.
Well, so
So
what
that's
are you
binge watching.
doing when you're sitting and watching it during a binge watch session?
Nothing.
You
Eating potato chips, stopping it, go to the bathroom, come back, eat something else, snacking. You're basically just watching it.
don't you get a little antsy?
No, because the show is usually really good.
Are
Now
you
I do that.
are you
No,
drinking alcohol at the time?
no,
No.
no. Depends. So yeah, my lifestyle is very different from other people's lifestyle, but I've not surveyed everybody, but I have a vibe out there that most people that watch TV, like to me, this is TV, uh, do that now. Unless I'm like
Do what?
missing something, binge watch.
Oh, okay.
People don't just watch one episode and walk away. Yeah, like not to my understanding, unless I'm completely out of touch with reality. But most of the time I think this is how people consume now, and this is why like the storyline, the way it arcs, the way like multiple storyline comes together,
Mhm.
now that we're at the end of season one, it's all connected. And I'm wondering if you had been binge watching it would have been better versus, you know, uh, or worse. I don't know.
I don't know
So
that I'm capable of binge watching in the manner that you describe. It just
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if TV, modern day TV, is written in such a way that because I've watched shows in the past, like before the modern stream cloud technology is around, and I noticed that it's almost too much. Like it wasn't written that way. So I don't know if you ever heard of the show The Wire
yeah.
on HBO. Yeah, a few years ago I was introduced to The Wire, so obviously this is like way after The Wire was written. Um, and when I was watching it, I noticed that the story jumps around a lot. So, like for example, like Game of Thrones, there's a lot of characters, but typically there's an arc. Like they finish out a certain character journey because you're expecting that, like the audience wants that. When I noticed when I was watching The Wire, there's a lot of characters and they do piecemeal in an hour, kind of 45-hour minute, which is made for like normal TV with commercial breaks and all that stuff. They jump around, and sometimes it's not worth telling that piece of story. But then I remember, hey, this is before streaming. Like when people watch 1 hour and then leave and go do something else and wait until the next week.
Well, that's not.
So
I don't know that that's true. I mean,
yeah,
that
I don't
was
know
in the
either.
age of the DVR, and people would
Mm,
certainly load up on episodes and then watch them all at once.
right, but this is before YouTubers were around, right? Before people would jump on YouTube, like, hey, let me share my thoughts and whatever about this show. Like right now, the show Mandalorian, 1 episode per week is coming out, and there are people who talks about like the episode that just came out. Sometimes even before it comes out, and so all these excitement and hyperactiveness and crazy ADHD. I'm curious if I'm pretty sure. I'm almost like certainly sure that Stranger Things on Netflix is written in such a way that every episode ends on a hook. Like it just ends on a hook, and you need to know what happened. Like for me, I need to know what happened next, and I'm wondering if it matters how the story affects or how you feel about the story if you consume it differently, right? So yeah, that's just a thought.
Hmm. Well, I don't know that we'll ever know the answer to that. I don't
but
see myself consuming it differently than I do.
but so far, yeah, it seems to end. Season one of Expanse seems to end on a hook itself. So we can cover what happens in the last 7, 8, 9, 10 now. I think we have major characters arc coming together. At least we kind of know what's going on. From like just a story perspective, you said it's pretty good. Like, um, compared to like Star Trek or anything out there that you kind of feel sci-fi versus, space drama. Where do you put it, like compared to something like that? I don't know if you have anything to
I,
compare it to.
I would compare it to Battlestar Galactica, probably.
Mm,
I love Star Trek: The Next Generation, but it seems like apples and oranges to me. I can't really compare the two.
right. This is action heavy
Action
action
heavy
too.
and gritty.
Yes, very gritty.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, we finally learn. Well, to me, the character arc that's most important is Jim Miller and the crew, the main character crew. Well, I can't believe I'm blanking on the character's name, but
James Holden.
James Holden finally meet each other.
Yeah,
They kind of
that was a cool scene,
investigate.
by the way. That was the
Yes,
scene I was talking about earlier. That
about
where
what?
so there's I don't know if we want to go through the narrative, but there was a gun battle between the crew,
Mm-hmm.
the Roxanate, and the it was in a
In the
hotel
hotel.
on
Yep.
Arrow Station, and they were pinned down, and then Jim Miller shows up and
Yeah.
kind of saves them. That was a cool scene for me.
Yeah, he just kind of caps everybody out. You're just like, what? No, I like that too. So
I didn't realize that they were both at Arrow Station. I
Mm,
didn't know why Jim Miller was going to Arrow Station. I don't know. I didn't know why the crew of the Rocinante were
yeah.
docking there either.
This
Uh,
is why you need to binge watch.
well, I know it's connected to looking for Julie
Uh-huh.
Mao, I think is the last name, but I'm not sure why the crew of the Rocinante were looking for her.
Yeah.
I know
So,
Jim Miller was the whole time, like that. We know that was
mhm.
his motivation for a while. But so do you?
So I remember watching it the first time and understanding this, and then because we watch it in piecemeal, I'm kind of having trouble, the same trouble you're experiencing. That's why I'm kind of asking those questions because one, the show is written a certain way, and I'm wondering if spatial geometry and location setting, if it pops up more often, if it would help. So, for example, like if you watch Star Wars, they'll say, whatever planet Luke is on, and then the scene change, and so you have like an actual label on screen that say, "Hey, this is the planet Naboo. You're not, where you were before." And because the Expanse moves so fast between different, different location, basically, it kind of you kind of have to keep up really fast. So you have to be on it,
And I've been
and if
taking
you
notes, and I think to a certain extent, taking notes is blocking me from having that knowledge
Yeah,
because
why are you taking notes?
so I can remember what happens.
Just watch it again.
Well, but then I won't remember everything.
That's really strange to me that you're taking notes on a TV show, but just just
Well,
just
because
watch it and enjoy it.
but
It's not a book.
we're gonna talk about it, and I want to remember what I
Yeah,
saw.
fair enough. Fair enough. So basically, definitely on Jim Miller's side, he found a spaceship tracking map. So he used a technology that did, and I like it because they brought it up where basically he planned out the trajectory.
Yeah, I saw that
On
in his apartment on Ceres. He
Correct,
did that.
correct. So he figured out that's where he needs to be. He needs to go to Arrows because he pretty sure this is where it's where the ship might be docking. Like this is basically his next clue. Um,
And the ship is the Anubis.
Correct. He doesn't know that yet. He just know this is where she's intercepting another ship, and I think she's gonna land here. Like this is the nearest thing. On James Holden's side, I'm having trouble remember what drove them to it, but I'm thinking the spy that kind of stole away on their ship.
Right. Okay. So
Uh,
let's talk about that game.
yeah,
They, so I, they left Tycho Station, and I guess they were heading to Eros as the next as a refueling spot or something. Or
I think they left Tycho Station and they might be going to the system like Earth and Mars. I don't remember. I know that they were running, and I think that was it.
but they were looking
They
for a place to
to go next.
I
Yeah,
think refuel. I mean, they're ultimately heading to Earth, but I don't. I guess they
yeah.
can't get there all in one shot. So Eros was like halfway between, or
I'm not sure, but that guy definitely influenced them going to Arrows. I think maybe you're right. Arrows is both a rest stop just because they need to stop. Not sure it's like physically they need to refuel or not, but they were also on the run. And I think the outer planet with the belt, you could kind of blend in, which is how or why. Um, I forgot his name too. Gee, I'm blanking on all the names all the time. The guy that runs the OPA on Tycho's,
Fred Johnson.
yeah, Fred Johnson help them disguise the ship.
Yeah,
So they're
so
yeah,
it's a Martian ship that's disguised as a gas hauler. So there's
right,
tanks on the side of it.
correct. So they need
So
to
they're
get
on
to
their way
Arrows.
to Eros,
Yep.
and on their way they discover that there's a stowaway on board, a guy with the camera eye.
Yeah.
It's unclear whether he's a spy from Fred Johnson or what sort of
Earth.
or Earth, I guess.
Yep.
But he's shifty and I don't, you don't trust him as a viewer.
Right. So do you know why I'm thinking he's from Earth? And like I think later on it's pretty much secure. Um, there was a scene. Well, I'm not sure if it was this season or not, but the Asa Varala, the I guess a senator or political player on Earth, was
The
talking about
Indian woman.
right, finding out more, and she doesn't trust basically anybody on any side. I think this spy works for her versus working for Fred Johnson instead. So that's really my only clue if I remember it correctly. So yeah. So
Oh, could he be the asset that she tried to get? In our last episode, we talked about a scene where she was talking to someone who was a former head of security with the UN, and she
mm,
wanted to use an asset of his,
yeah,
and he first declined or didn't want her to do it, but then she put some pressure on him to use it.
yeah,
So maybe that's this guy.
yeah, yeah. I think it's the same guy. I think that's the gist of it. What I really like about her is she goes beyond, right? She visited Jim Holden's mom. And I love that scene because I see a little bit of Earth, like not post apocalyptic, but basically whatever this future is. And kind of just, kind of very different from all the other settings that we've seen in the show so far because it's all spaceship, cramped quarters, and just basically, very dangerous and there's, unlivable almost. It's a struggle. And
So the scene you're
uh,
talking about takes place on Earth in Montana, and
mm-hmm.
it's a large house in the middle of the country.
Yep.
It's snowing, and a lot of the other scenes on Earth are cramped quarters, people
Yeah.
packed together, the regular people. But there are these wealthy people who have large estates where they can spread out.
Yeah. Um, to me, that scene can convince me, or at least share with me how shrewd or wise or smart Azarella is. Like she can kind of like put a psychological profile together, trying to understand Jim Holden's motivation in all this, because he's kind of got caught up in it, and then just kind of did what he did, with no real clear plan. Like he's not in this in a political kind of power play, right? Like last episode we talked about how, or the last Expanse episode we talked about how uh his print or photo is being used as like a leverage for the OPA, and you asked a really good question that I couldn't figure out. You know, he's from Earth. He doesn't really have investment or a stake in their suffering, but he just recorded like, hey, something weird is going on. Everybody check this out. Kind of like put up the alarm with the entire solar system already on
You're
edge.
talking about his broadcast where he says that Mars
Correct.
blew up the Canterbury.
Right. And so she's trying to understand him by talking to his family, or specifically his mother. And I kind of love that scene because they're kind of like, psychology like test each other out. Very, very, non-aggressive, but at something passive aggressive. It just, I don't know why I love that kind of stuff. It makes it very, when you do power play without actual physical intimidation. And then right after we saw a
So
scene where she's on the phone with somebody and she just, explain all that. So yeah.
that's an interesting comment you just made.
Hmm.
You enjoy the power play where people are talking and sort of not being direct in what they're saying.
Yeah.
Now, you said the exact opposite as it relates to War and Peace in our last episode, that
Yeah.
you don't like that sort of conversation.
Because I don't understand War and Peace character's motivation or drive. Whereas Esmerella is trying to prevent war, and she's actually trying to do something. She's out of the loop, and she's trying to get into the loop, and she's doing whatever she needs to do to get into the loop. Whereas the other characters in War and Peace, I don't know what they're up to. They're just hanging out, just trying to get rich, which is like, that's a cool drive, but it's just like lame as well. Whereas this is like literally the end of the world on everybody. It could be war and everybody's in battle, and she's trying to prevent it. And she thinks, well, she doesn't trust anybody, and she really needs to know who Jim Holden is because she needs to know, why did he do what he did, and we're on edge, so I need to do all the research I can do, and nobody else care enough, as much as she did, to actually go to Montana and like understand him. Everybody else kind of just react and play with him the same way they do politically, throughout the other systems. Yeah.
Now, after she went to Montana, she went to Alaska and
hmm
visited some guy who I didn't know who he was, and they talked about another guy named Frank who had died.
yeah.
Do you know anything? Can you shed some light on this?
So wasn't Frank the guy that she pressure? Um, I think I don't know what episode it was, but she was basically meeting him covertly and asking for a spy. Isn't that the same guy? Pretty sure that's the same
I
guy.
don't know.
Yeah. I don't know if he violated some kind of protocol or rule, and I don't know if he was fired because he, provided her information, or used his power to put the spy on the ship, or whatever he did. Pretty much, he was fired or let go from wherever position, he was enjoying in the government. And I'm pretty sure is the guy that she met and played chess with and know her dad from years past. So like it's hard to remember when you kind of don't binge watch it, but to me that was the same character, and he knows more than he was letting on.
Who
So
knows more than he was letting on?
the guy that died,
Well, now he
that she
doesn't know
visited.
anything. He's dead.
Well, that's why she was investigating his house. Like she came by and say, "Hey, I need some time to say goodbye."
Yeah.
Right. So that's the guy that she met covertly several times,
And she took
trying
some
to.
pencils from his desk.
Yeah, it
Well,
turns out it wasn't regular pencil. They were like data, store pencils.
oh,
And so that's when she put on her tablet and was investigating. She now know that guy. Oh, she got confirmation that he knew more than he let on, and whatever he's working on, either he was conflicted or just, we saw a little conversation where he was pretending to go to work,
mhm.
but frankly he was already fired, and now he passed away. So there's a lot of basic loose end being, taken care of one way or another. Information is not getting out from whatever stuff is going on, and this is not just the normal war. This is like something else, and so she's diving deeper into it, and now she knows like, people she care about are being taken care of, like
Right.
gone.
Okay.
Yeah.
That
So
doesn't really
that's
clear anything up for me, but I appreciate the effort. So, okay. So at the end of episode 7, we see Jim Miller leaving Ceres and heading for Eros, and he leaves his hat behind. So symbolic, he's ending one form of existence and heading into another. Then, so on the ship to Eros, he's talking to a Mormon guy, and the Mormons are building a big ship to travel to another system to set up shop there. But
not necessary system, by the way. Just so we're on the clear. They're doing a space a space trip where there's no clear destination. It's called a generation ship. They're just going.
well, no, there's a destination. It's got to be another planet. Another.
Mm,
They're just
no.
going straight out into space.
Yeah. They're looking for, you know, they're looking for whatever they're looking, and I'm pretty sure they might have like something in mind.
No,
But
I think they're looking for another planet to colonize, but it's
yeah.
it's a planet that's orbiting a different star,
Oh,
which will
okay.
take a long time to get to. That it'll take
I
generations to get there, but
I didn't get that from what I was watching. Maybe I just missed it. But okay. Either way, yeah. He talked to this guy and just kind of hung out, and finally got on arrows, which was key. And then everything happens. So uh,
okay.
we found Julie finally. So I don't know if that. So obviously there's another flashback scene, and I think it should help clue in on everything that season 1 is happening. Do you feel like once we got to her that all the questions been answered, for you at least?
I feel like some light has been shed upon the questions that I have, but I still don't feel like I fully understand what's going on. But
Mm-hmm.
anyway, something important happened on the way to Eros with the Rocinante. They
They almost got caught.
a Martian
Yeah.
ship tried to board them, but then
Mm-hmm.
they figure out that they can give that ship a code word, and
Mm-hmm.
the ship will back off, and that's what happened.
Yep. That's it. There's nothing else that is that important, but it's cool scene because there's a lot of tension.
Mm-hmm.
So they're running and hiding, so it's tension is always there, kind of like a submarine kind of movie where it's just like what's going on, but they finally got the spy that stowed away on their ship actually was helpful in that regard. He kind of looped them in on how Martian ship Black Ops deal with stuff. And yeah.
So once on Eros, there's this black guy who is like the head of police there or something, but he knows Jim Miller.
Yeah, I guess there were previous cop buddies,
Mm-hmm.
but now everybody is like security guards, cop buddies, and I guess he works on Arrows, so
And
kind
we
of
had
hooks him
seen
up.
him previously. He had sent Jim Miller a communication.
Yeah.
I
So I think
guess telling him that the Anubis had stopped at Eros, and so that's why Jim Miller is going there.
Yeah, I think he was doing research into supposedly not defunct project because we remember him being fired from this, but he's still kind of investigating it because he's drawn to it. So yeah.
And that black guy asks, "Do you know his name?" So I don't have to call him that black guy.
We can look it up, or we could just call him Jim Miller's buddy.
Okay, Jim Miller's African belt
Cop
friend. But anyway, one of the first things he says to Jim Miller when he shows up is, "Hey, where's my hat?"
I don't remember, but okay. Was that the hat that he left behind, or the hat he was wearing?
Of course it was. What
I
other
didn't-
hat
I-
would it have been?
I didn't. I totally don't remember the scene, so I have to rewatch it for that.
I don't know if it's worth rewatching just for that purpose, but
Yeah,
Feel
I don't
free
know
to.
why certain things you hold on to and certain things I hold on to, but
they seem to be different things.
yeah, I don't remember anything about. I just know that Jim Miller does wear a hat, and you're gonna see him later, kind of do that, but it's not like
A new hat, I assume.
Yes, I
Well,
don't want to ruin it for you. You just have
please,
to wait.
please don't.
Yep.
So anyway,
They found Julie. That's the key.
yeah. So they go to this.
I feel like you're
they go to
dancing
this
around.
hotel on Eros where they.
Uh-huh.
I guess they're looking for Julie.
Yep.
And so do the crew. So does the crew of the Rocinante. But I don't know why they end up there. Do you know why? Why are they looking for Julie?
Because I don't know if you remember all the way back to episode 1. Like even in Julie's, like in the later episode, we see a flash scene of her leaving a message for help.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is that like they're looking not necessarily for her. They're just looking as to all the way back in episode 1. This message was broadcasted, and Jim Holmes, even before he get to the signal relay, everything that happened is because of this. So they're just trying to find out why as well. They're actually looking for
find out why what.
Why they even heard of the message in all the way back, talking about this weapons being hidden. They're trying to rescue somebody and their ice hauler get blown up.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know why. This is all connected.
I know it's connected, but I don't understand the connections. So, okay.
So the connection is there is a weapon being made and nobody knows who's making it. Right. They're looking for Lionel Lasky, which is like a clue. I'm having trouble remembering. They're being hunted by somebody. It's not Mars. They fought off
Who's being hunted by somebody?
The crew of Rocinante.
Mm-hmm.
They were chased to Tycho Station. They were fighting unknown technology ships.
Right. Okay. Yes.
Right. So somebody's chasing them because they know something they shouldn't know.
Or they're pursuing something they shouldn't pursue.
Both. This whole thing is all because of that original message all the way back in episode 1 when they were still on the ice hauler. This is connect to that.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay. So we were okay. So the crew of the Rocinante left the Donager with the mission to go back to Earth to testify that Mars was not the
involved.
Mars did not blow up the Canterbury.
Yep.
So it's not the Rocinante yet, but it goes to Tycho Station, gets refitted as the Rocinante, and then they head to Eros. Mm-hmm. So at what point during that journey do they get the motivation to investigate Julie?
Good question. I don't remember. I have to watch it again. But
so this is what I mean. I don't understand why they end up in the same place as Jim Miller looking for Julie.
They didn't look for Julie. They looked for Lionel Lasky, who owns the ship.
Lionel Pulaski.
So you remember
what ship?
So there's a ship that they blew up because there was basically dead bodies, and basically they found a weapon. They didn't know what it was.
Right. Okay, hold on. So they, on their way to Eros, they encounter an asteroid, and there's the stealth ship is parked on the asteroid, and they go into the stealth ship and they see, and it turns out that this was the ship.
Anubis.
This was the ship that Julie was in episode 1, where she was locked in a room and then escapes and all that. But on board this ship is some sort of bioweapon that we see in episode 1 as well, and Julie gets infected with it, and it sort of eats her body from the inside slowly.
Right.
So she leaves the ship there, and she escapes in a shuttle from that ship and goes to Eros, and then she hangs out in a hotel room where she slowly dies from this infection.
I think they found out that the shuttle left for Eros. I don't know if that was a scene that was shown at all, but we saw the shuttle moving there, and so I think as audience, you're supposed to connect the dots and understand that they're going to follow to Eros to understand what happened. So yeah, I think that's pretty correct, unless you're looking for a scene that actually say why they go there. I don't remember.
I don't need a scene. I just want to know what the reason is.
Yeah, I think that was it.
Okay. So anyway, they all end up at this hotel on Eros. And Eros is a dump, by the way. It's just a disgusting place.
Yeah, just like all the belt planets are. Yeah.
Well, it's even worse than Ceres, I think.
Yeah. This is definitely for mining and nothing else. So it's not like, it's just for work. So.
Well, no, there are like streets and market areas, and even on Ceres, there's like
nice apartments. Yeah.
Nice apartments and video sky kind of. Eros is just gross, and like the hotel is disgusting, and everything's grimy and rusty and dripping water. And
you're focusing. It's so funny because there's like the biggest story arc, and you're just not talking about it.
Well, go ahead and talk about it.
Julie.
Well, I'm trying.
They finally found Julie. Yes.
No, I know, but.
Do you understand what's going on with her? Like, that is like the most critical piece of information we found in this last 4 episodes. That is like all this show is about.
The issue is that you describe what you know, but
Uh-huh.
it's very disjointed, and you leave out a lot of information that I don't think the listeners would be able to follow you. So I find myself having to clean up after you, adding in information.
We're not reporting on a show. We're talking about how the show or why the show is interesting.
Okay,
And so we're not
but I
painting the show in
assume that you
words.
want our listeners to understand what we're talking about to some degree.
Yeah, they should.
Okay, well, okay, but
And like if they watch the show, so so here's my perspective. If you listen to this podcast and don't watch the Expand, you're like you shouldn't. This whole thing is about talking about the Expanse, the TV show. So you should either are
Tang,
consuming
I get that, but when you describe something, you leave a lot of stuff out, and like,
yeah.
well,
We're talking about the biggest story, not
like you say, him
the
and
little
her,
story.
and it's unclear
That's
who
true.
him and her is.
I do
you
that.
say this and that, and you're not. It's unclear what you're referring to with this and that. So okay,
That's true.
I'm trying to clean up what you're talking about. I
Right.
mean, not only for our listeners. I figure if I don't know what you're talking about, then our listeners don't either. So
okay, fair enough. But we're talking about the status of arrows, which is kind of unimportant.
It's not unimportant. It's what makes the show interesting.
Okay. What about Julie's dead body? You don't find that's interesting?
I've been talking about that as well.
Okay. So let's talk about it. So they found her. To me, that was the biggest shock. Apparently not to you. Did you find her death normal?
No, of course not.
Okay. Okay. All right. So we see her dead body. Both Jim Holden's crew and Jim Miller found Julie's body in this hotel room, and there's this weird crystal or liquid. I don't know, but it was basically it seems like an infection, and it's blue and it's disgusting. And I was blown away, and I was like, leave. But
and it seems to be charged by electricity somehow. Like when it's in the presence of electricity, it grows.
Yeah.
Faster.
I'm not. Yeah, I think it's either inorganic and organic at the same time. It seems to basically have the ability to consume anything and everything. And so.
Well, it has the ability to infect people.
Yeah.
And it's somehow connected to electrical sources.
Yeah. Because her room was dark. Yeah.
Yeah. So we see her at one point smashing all her electrical devices because she makes that connection. So it turns out that this is some sort of bioweapon that was being developed by an unknown group of people.
Mm-hmm.
An investigator comes in afterwards and takes samples from her body.
Mm-hmm.
And this investigator is separate from the black guy who's the chief of police on Arrows.
Yeah. The scientist guy took a sample of her, well, basically blood, and we see some kind of communication, and there's a big twist that's being revealed. I don't know. I'm pretty sure you caught it, but
he talks to Julie's father.
Correct.
Yeah.
So this whole thing, all of season 1 was just like her fighting her dad, and we now know that this, organization or whatever they are isn't a country, isn't Mars, isn't Earth. It is basically completely separate, and basically it's Julie Mao's dad. I forgot his name, but he is doing all of this, and all of it. The research, the crazy spaceship that no one knows where it's from, the advanced technology, all of it is him kind of researching to do something crazy. Yeah.
So we don't know what this bioweapon is designed to do, or who's making it and for what purpose. We also learned that Fred Johnson on Tycho Station is expecting a UN ship to come and arrest him.
Yeah.
And he makes a broadcast saying that he admits to being the leader of the AOP.
OPA.
Mm-hmm. And he also talks about how these stealth fighters stealth ships were built by Earth.
Right. So this relay back to the scene where you were kind of confused with all the pencils Asa Virali was looking into.
Mm-hmm.
So she was researching into engine drives, and she was asking the computer who built these ships and where are the engines of the ships right now. And there was no answer because it's basically black ops. They complete hidden it, but somehow whatever they delivered to so that's the thing I forgot because I don't remember how he got this information. Uh, but Fred Johnson seems to know where the ship were built, which is on Earth, by this organization. So,
In the Bush shipyards. I wonder if
okay,
that's a reference to George Bush.
possibly. Yeah, pretty cool. So everything is falling together, and I now feel like the bigger, like the major players, like Mars, right?
Mm-hmm.
Earth and the OPA is now kind of, at least everybody knows that, hey, man, these ships are coming from Earth, and now they're, as of Varela is kind of thinking of a response, like how is Earth gonna deal with this kind of thing. So I'm pretty excited.
Okay, well, so in the final episode, episode 10, where a lot of it takes place on Eros Station,
Mm-hmm.
and so the crew of the Rocinante want to leave and get back to their ship and leave.
Mm-hmm.
So they're on the way back to their ship, and there's an explosion and a radiation leak.
Mm-hmm.
And so everyone's locked down on the station. And we find out that there's all these police officers that are actually just gangsters that were recruited to be police officers, I guess, on Eros.
Mm-hmm.
And we find out that whoever's behind this bioweapon wants to infect everyone on Eros with the bioweapon.
Yep. Nuts.
Um, I don't know why, but they do. Um, so Jim Miller and James Holden get separated from the crew of the Rocinante. The
Mm-hmm.
crew of the Rocinante eventually make it back to the ship and are waiting for Jim and James to rendezvous with them. On the way, though, Jim and James get exposed to radiation. They start to get sick and start to bleed
By the
out
way,
through them.
no character, even the character on the show, called them Jim and James. They call them Miller and Holden, but okay. Yeah, they got exposed pretty heavily, and they seem like they're gonna die.
Seem like they're going to die.
But
Well, they
yeah.
eventually make it back to the ship, but they're almost dead. And the ship leaves Eros and jettisons its gas hauler sides
Mm-hmm.
in order to leave. So now it's clearly a Martian ship.
Yep.
Um, Jim and James are
Just call
are
Miller and Holden, please.
Jim and James are seated on La Rocinante, and they're being treated with
Yeah.
some medicine. It's unclear whether this medical intervention will reverse their radiation exposure, but I mean, they're main characters. It's the end of season 1. I
Yeah, they got
assume
away.
something will happen to
You
allow
don't
them
have
to
to. You don't have to
leave.
paint that picture of how they leave. They got away and they got saved by last minute. Now, the key thing that I took away from the last few moments is how badass Amos is, which I guess it totally, like, I don't know. Did you? So there's like definitely a fandom out there for Amos, which I am definitely part of that fandom. And this really nailed it in for me, like the moment where I'm like, oh, heck yeah, like he's definitely like the man. The
Yeah,
muscle.
he's kind of a no nonsense guy
Yeah,
who
but there's a key scene and why it hit me in the core as to why, like, this is now pretty much my favorite character. I mean, Holden is definitely the main character and he's kind of like the captain,
mhm.
but it's just like a crew. Everybody have their thing. So I love their, I guess, personality, but I really like Amos. To the rest of them are like okay to me, like I love them, but
Mhm.
Amos is the glue that like draw me to the show. On top of like the show, but
Yeah, so
so
they're
he
all in the Rocinante, and they're the black guy is with them, and
mm-hmm.
he wants them to leave
Yep.
Eros, and um,
Miller's cop buddy betrayed him basically. So basically
well,
during the
hold
scene,
on, I was setting something up, and then you
go ahead
and then you you break in
and ruin it. Yeah,
and
because
ruin it. Yeah, so they're Jim and James have not made it back to the ship yet,
yeah,
and they're
yeah,
waiting for them. And the black guy wants to leave, and the engineer woman, what Naomi, I think her
yep.
name is.
Naomi
She
Nagata.
she's like
Yep.
she wants to stay and wait for them,
Right.
and Amos ends up shooting the black guy, basically.
Right. So let me paint the scene really fast because they're having a discussion and Miller's cop buddy pull out a gun and point at Naomi, which is like at first they were just arguing, which is fine. I guess, people do that. And then it got real heated when he pulled the gun out. He's like, "We gotta go," and Miller's know the deal. Like, so basically, she was trying to play into Miller's cop buddy that, "Hey, your friend is still there," and he's like, "Fuck my friend," and he pull out a gun and point at her, and he's
Mhm.
like, "Hey, pilot, go get the ship ready." Blah 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 blah, and gave Amos an order, thinking that Amos is on his side because I think they were maybe have a shoot down maybe half hour ago or something. I don't know what reason he thinks Amos is on his side, but he believes it. Which is a big mistake.
Well, Amos agreed with him. He's like, he's right. We do have to leave.
Yeah. Which is I love because he's stone cold dead killer and for the guy to assume um this guy's on his side without understanding the relationship between Amos and Naomi, which we now know that scene just super badass. He pulled out a gun, he said yes, and then he turned around and shot him, and nobody expected it. Nobody, even Naomi didn't expect it.
Mm-hmm.
And then he just stone cold said, "I'm gonna take care of this dead body now." Super calm, put the gun down, and drag his body down the I guess storage area. And both Naomi and the pilot guy is still in shock. They're frozen. They don't know what just happened. That by far between all the action and stuff, that scene just I love it.
Yeah, no,
So
that was a
yeah,
cool scene. I like that.
yeah, that was like my guy. Of course, there were previous scenes where he kind of threatened the spy real cold, like sticking him the I guess where they eject stuff out of the ship. But long story, we know he has issue and not really normal. Basically,
Who?
Amos. Holden was definitely concerned with him in certain times when he was like, "Hey Naomi, next stop, we gotta kick him off the ship. He's not all there." As far as certain times you want so Holden is kind of naive because he want to threaten people, but necessarily murder them all the time. And Amos is just ready to murder people all the time. He's in survival mode all the time and don't really care for anybody except him and the crew he's with, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that simplicity when they're facing battle or something. It's just like, no, the crew comes first. And Miller's cow buddy made a critical mistake in assuming that everybody else is selfish like he is, and I love it. It really came together
Mm-hmm.
for the crew. So awesome
So,
stuff.
so another thing, Jim Miller kind of defined himself as his purpose was to find Julie, and
Mm-hmm.
at one point he says it's even after he gets fired from the police force,
Mm-hmm.
he's still looking for her because he says this is all I got
Mm.
left in life. So he finds Julie, he finds she's dead, and then it's like, now what do I do with myself?
Yeah. Yeah.
But he's hooked up with the crew of the Rocinante now, so perhaps he'll find his new purpose with them.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a final scene where everyone's left Arrow Station except and eye camera guy, the
Yep.
stowaway,
Mm-hmm.
um, is wandering around Arrow Station, and then he comes into contact with the bioweapon,
Mm-hmm.
which has grown and sort of established itself, and then it attacks him.
Right.
It so it that kind of reminded me of Stranger Things a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
The bioweapon is very much is similar to the monsters on Stranger Things.
Uh yeah. I think it has definitely tentacle abilities.
Tentacle
So
abilities. It infects people with
with
whatever.
itself kind
Yeah,
of
yeah,
we
yeah.
so basically we know from the video chat between the scientist and Julie Mao's father that they want to use arrows and as another like a second experiment, and that's what that phone call is for, and he was basically go ahead do it, because I think prior to this, they were still kind of self-contained tests, like the little ships, and basically very careful. I think with his daughter's death, he just kind of not give a damn anymore, and he's like, screw it, go do it. Um, and this scientist guy is kind of like in love with this bioweapon, so he's like, yes, and that's what I think Miller and Holden's also slightly affected for like the brief 20 seconds they were kind of opening doors at this one bay. The radiation might have, as far as the bioweapon radiation, might have also affect them, and so we see them struggle to stay alive this whole time. And so I'm not sure if it's normal radiation or this specific bioweapon, but it's kind of becoming sentient.
Well, yeah.
So
So we don't see any of the blue patches on either Jim or James.
mhm.
So I don't think they've been infected by the bioweapon. I think they just got exposed to radiation, or at
Yeah,
least that's my sense of it at this point.
yeah.
Um,
But there was a
yeah,
so
yeah.
the spy
Hold,
guy,
yeah.
yeah, his death. He saw like a weird little tiny lights that kind of mirror him.
Hmm.
So to me that was to me that's why I was like this thing is becoming sentient, or I don't know how to place it, but it was definitely strange.
Yeah, it's alive. It's
Yeah,
and seems to have a mind of its own, which
yeah.
makes it a strange weapon of choice by
Mm-hmm.
these scientist people. Like, what are they hoping to accomplish with this bioweapon?
Uh, like everything else, probably make money and sell it. But
But I mean,
y-
if it's like this monster, if the bioweapon is this monster that just
yep,
attacks indiscriminately, like what kind of a weapon is that? Like,
no idea. All we know right now is it kills people really fast, and it can spread itself like a disease, but at the same time, it's somewhat sentient. So,
it
like you
doesn't
can,
kill them fast though. Like between the time that Julie was infected with it and the time of her death, it seemed like it was a couple of weeks.
yeah, but fast in regard to like spreading like a disease. So whatever they broke open or like explode, um, it turns people faster on arrows than on Julie's infection. Like Julie's was like a contained infection on a ship,
Mhm.
and basically we see this virus evolving or like whatever it is. It's like becoming a new thing because of the population of arrows being so big. So
But I mean, is there an end game to this bioweapon? Do they
yeah, you
like?
have to keep watching,
Well, of
but
course. I mean, yeah. I
no,
mean,
no
okay.
one knows yet. Yeah.
You've seen the rest of the series, so
So at this point,
it's
no one knows yet. We just know
yeah.
that this company is doing something with it, and I mean, no one is gonna just dump a whole bunch of money for no reason. I'm sure whatever Julie Mao's dad does for his industry, he's probably gonna turn into a weapon and sell it. So he's looking to profit from
I know, but
the
it's not like a missile or something that explodes and then that's the end of it.
yeah,
It's an infectious disease that
yeah,
turns into a an entity unto itself that you then
yeah.
have to contend with. Like
I think
what
they don't
possible
know that
application
yet.
could that have?
Right. I think they don't know that yet. I think they just know it's a bioweapon so far.
Hmm.
So what we saw the end of it, like the end of season one when it captured the spy guy,
Hmm.
I don't think the science team that research knows that yet. I think so far they just know that it spreads, and
So
they
it's
don't know
like
it.
something that they invented that will get out of their control,
Yes,
probably. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So we as the audience know more than they do actually. So yep, yeah. I think this is where it goes into kind of like super sci-fi, not super sci-fi, but it pulls all the forces together. So in my mind, as an audience or general viewer, I'm like, oh, now Holden is gonna be a glue to all of humanity, right? So it's to me, it's like now there's a chance where the OPA, Mars, and Earth are gonna be on the same side fighting this whatever this thing is. But that's, I don't know, from all the movies and TV shows, general arc have a tendency to carry. Do you, like when you see this, do you think like, do you still have a vibe of political power? Like I've never seen Battlestar Galactica, but now I think like, it's very, at the beginning of the season or the show, we have multiple forces. Now we have basically, everybody on one side, humanity versus alien. Um, so that's, yeah, I don't know. Compared to any other story, do you find it more compelling, or does this hook at the end make you drives your curiosity more, or you're just like, it's just a space monster, like how do you feel about it?
I don't know. I'm interested to see where the story goes.
Cool.
But I mean, in terms of comparing it to other sci-fi shows, I don't really have an opinion on that at this point.
Yeah. A lot happened, and man, I don't know. I think the suspense and like the monster, is that thriller? I don't know how to describe that. The thriller portion of the show kind of hooked me in too. Uh, Generally, I don't care for thriller stuff, but this is like mysterious space monster. So it's really hard to define, and I like that because it's now gaining sentience and acting weird, and I don't know, it's just very intriguing to me. So that's what pulled me into the show, and of course on the back end of it or on top of it, there's like a crew flying around trying to figure themselves out, all the human stuff too. But this is like the thing that got me into the Expanse. So yeah, I don't know. I like it, and I they have a good hook. Like they know what they're doing as far as like writers of the show. Yeah.
Yeah, it's well written. It's well acted. There's cool special effects, and the sets look great. And yeah, it's interesting.
Yep. Cool. Any final thoughts as we wrap up this episode?
Well, we should make mention that our next episode will involve Scott Markowitz. So
yes, we are taking a break from our normal, I guess, programming. So we've been switching back and forth for a while until we finish this out. But on top of that, we're going to talk about, a little bit about podcasting as well. And Scott Markowitz is, I guess, a friend of both. I don't know. Do you know Scott longer than I have? I would say yes, right?
Yeah, he was a member of the Fuquay Arena Toastmasters.
Yeah. Yep. So. Cool. So yeah, he's also a peer in the podcasting world, and so this next episode is going to be dedicated to a lot of podcasting and a lot of Scott Markowitz. And I'm very excited. I'm hoping to learn stuff that maybe we can implement here and see if we can go somewhere with that.
Yeah, cool stuff. Me too. It'll be good to talk to him too.
All right. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day.
Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye, everyone. Bye-bye. Hey there, listeners. Thank you for supporting us thus far. How are you currently enjoying our show? Please share your thoughts with us through Twitter or YouTube. As we're a newer podcast, maintaining our vitality is the utmost important to us. Part of that process is to build community, but most importantly is to deliver content that you enjoy. So in order for us to do those things effectively, please share with us your ideas and or requests, and of course, how you receive the show so far. Perhaps we can do a follow-up conversation to a topic that we've covered not in depth enough, or cover a new topic that you find interesting. As always, please like